Welcome, this is our 58th pitch event. I think every time we run an event, we say the number, and I probably say the same thing, the number keeps getting bigger, which is great. So we're excited to be here, of course. We've got a great schedule. We'll jump right into it versus walking through that. Here are all the companies to date that have pitched at our events over the last 57 of them. So there's lots of great companies. A lot of them that are growing and doing very well, and they'll keep doing that. So that's why we do what we do. So since October, we've had 57 shows, 5,300 attendees, 220 pitches, 29 speakers, 7 workshops, 160 showcase startups, 100,000 in monthly impressions, and the best one that was from last night was 2 visits from the Mayor of Toronto. So we had to throw that out there because that was pretty exciting that he showed up last night. So lots of great things. We have companies all over the world that come to us. Today we had a call with a startup from San Francisco, and it goes from Argentina, Chile, India, you name it. We've had companies that we've talked to and worked through to see how we can help them and look to see if there's a way to help them with funding. So our next upcoming event, this will be the last one of 2019, which is next week on Friday at the ICBE. And this is the Iranian Canadian Business Expo. So it should be a pretty big and exciting expo that will be the second year running and our second time involved in their event. So our schedule for next year, it is busy. So we have lots of exciting events. We'll be here again on January 8th. And January 13th is our Skip the Line, City Hall, which is January 16th, and then PitchIt Durham, which is on the 29th. All very exciting. So one of the things that we went through last night when we were at City Hall was kind of how does all of this work and why do we do the things that we do. So the way we've structured ourselves is that, as you guys saw, we're at an event today. This is one of our smaller based events, and that works with Seneca College and Durham College. So these 3 events are kind of the feeder system into our next up and coming event. And the next big event that we have is our investor event, which is called Skip the Line. It's a paid closed pitch event. The startups to the investors, everybody in the room paid to be there because they're looking to get the best startups that we've worked with either over the last 2 months or it could be 2 years. It's the companies that we've been working with throughout that period and getting them ready for investment. So what we did is we turned that Skip the Line event into our own investment. We figured that if we could speed this process up, one of them would be to do our investment at that period of time. So we do have investors in the room, and we feed that by utilizing something that we created, which is called the Supporters Fund. You may have seen the sign on the way in, and we created our own fund about 1.5 years ago. Instead of myself just investing into startups over the last 10 years, thought this would be a great way to syndicate and drive more LPs in by angel investors so they come invest in our fund. Currently it's a $5 million fund, and then we work with the startups to get them ready, and then we work them through the funnel. So they come and they pitch at these events and more. Sometimes they'll pitch once and they'll come back 6 months and pitch again, and then from there they'll get ready. They're ready for investment. The business is doing the right metrics that are investable and will get others investing. So we get them in to Skip the Line. They come in and pitch, and then from there the 5 angel groups that sit on the panel, which is Keiretsu, G10, Spark, York, and Maple Leaf Angels. They screen them, they give us their top 5 list, and then they take the companies they like back to their screening. I'm also part of those screening committees, so I see both sides, and that allows me to better filter what they're all looking for. And the great thing is that they're not all looking for the same companies. Hardest thing to believe is that when you're looking for funding, you don't understand why everybody doesn't want to invest in you or everybody doesn't want to see you. Everybody has a slightly different perspective on what they think success is and a company that's going to go somewhere. So this is why people tell you when you go for investment, look for other things that they've invested in that are similar, because that would mean that they'll have a better understanding of your business and they'll probably have a better opportunity for you to actually get into their screening to get potential investment. So from there, they go and they pitch at our City Hall event. Last night was our City Hall event. Did anybody come to the event last night? Okay, actually did. And hopefully you guys all enjoyed it and got lots out of it. We did change the model around, so we had 2 companies pitch. We had a keynote, which was Peter Katz. Was he not awesome? Very good. Yeah, he was brilliant. It tells you a really good story about what he's gone through to be an entrepreneur, and he plays some amazing music. We had a panel on pivoting to win, and then we do 30-second spots, and then we did breakout sessions. So the partners, our sponsors, and companies that work very heavily in the space that we do, working with startups, we did breakout sessions with them to help the entrepreneur again network and get more entrenched into the community and work with the companies that we work with that help us move companies through to financing. So inside of that, that's kind of the process, and then we make our investments, we do deep dives, we go all the way through to get to term sheets to help invest in those companies, and we also do tag along with the angel groups. So if we know that the angel group is going to pick up them, we will work with them as well to make sure that we're all going in to help that company meet their goals of their fundraise. So as I mentioned, that's the Supporters Fund, and we're pretty excited that we have the opportunity to get in front of a lot of companies, and we can safely say that we're the largest syndication in North America, maybe the world, because nobody syndicates startups. That's what we do. We get startups that are raised, going for a new raise, they get sent over, and then we can put them into the loop so that all the groups can have access to them so that they can find the right companies to invest in. Skip the line is 10 companies, 7 minutes, 10 minutes of Q&A deep dive, rapid fire question and answer, 5 angel groups equals syndication. So the next event is January 13th. One of the partnerships that we've created over the years, anybody know Fireside? Well, if you haven't, you'll probably see it soon because we talk about it quite a bit. We've been a big fan of their business. We've been working with them for 5 years and attending their event, and we continue to go there. It's a weekend getaway for entrepreneurs, 400 plus people that go to the cabin in the woods. Lots of cabins because obviously 400 people can't fit in one cabin, but they are big cabins, and it's a pretty exciting venue because there's investors, there are startups, there are business people, there's everybody collaborating and figuring out how to operate and work together in the future. Our sponsors, YSpace, One Core Media, Miller Thompson, Bateman McKay, Global Payments, Flow, Water, Mindful Tea, Black Tea, Vibe, Startup York, York Angels, York University, System Bind, the Supporters Fund, and Heartboot, my software company. The team, where's Laura? Oh, there's Laura right there. She's the driving force behind it all. Brian, running and operating all the cameras. Mike is DJ, he's not here today. And we usually have Philip that's taking photos, so we have a great team of media that helps drive us to where we need to be. A little bit about myself, you can find it all right here. Investor, all that other stuff that comes along with it. We help startups work their way through the funnel to get to what they're looking for, which is funding to grow their business. And our aim is to get all of you getting a little bit of feedback so you can grow your business with the help of these guys. So today, Sherwin, that photo is very blurred. It's almost zen-like.
It's kind of dreamy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm like, gee, you're gonna tell me a story? And well, either way, Sherwin, why don't you give us a little bit about yourself, and Lucas, you can do that right after. Let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm part of the York Angel Group. I do the screening meetings with him a lot, so that's why he invites me to these things. I am a career professional software developer. Started my own consulting company many years ago, and I'm mostly doing startup investing now, so that's what I do.
Data, lots of data.
Hi, I'm Lucas. So when I'm not forgetting that I'm supposed to be here, So I'm a founder of a business called Y2 Entrepreneurship Labs, and what we do is we teach students in high school and middle school about entrepreneurship, problem solving, and innovation. Prior to that, I opened a consultant company. I've been a member of the York Angel Investors, and I lead Startup York Region, which is a community of about 600 entrepreneurs across York Region. So thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And these guys make up a lot of the whole atmosphere and ecosystem that we do in York. So we appreciate these guys being with us today. So today, these are the groups that are going to be pitching today. Stay Wave, Bunch of Animals, Woken, Revolve, and Bookie. And I think we should give these guys a hand because they're here. The advise you hear your feedback. This works out. Please, thank you. So the format is 5-minute pitch, 1-minute feedback from the two guys, and then we'll do some questions from the audience. And there's no pressure. Think of a question. I'll walk around with the mic, and I'll also ask questions at the same time because not only are you getting feedback from the advisors to help you, but you're also going to get questions from us that are going to make you think a little bit differently about your business and opportunities, and maybe help you focus a little more to get to that win. So we'll get right at it. We the Bookie is up.
Thanks, Jeffrey, and thanks, Laura. My name is Malcolm Wilkinson, and I'm the founder of We the Bookie. Last year, after my career as an actuary, I was studying to become a data scientist at Sherwin, and all of a sudden an idea hit me for a new concept of doing online sports betting. So I shopped the idea around for viability, and after that was determined positively, I packed my bags and booked my flights to Ireland, where online sports betting is completely legal. So I've been in Galway for the last year, setting up We the Bookie. It's a new way of doing an online sports betting business to customer operation. We're at seed fund, and we're at seed phase right now. We've reached our target, but still open for more. And we plan on going live early to mid next year. So what is the problem with the industry right now? Essentially, the online sports betting industry has formed itself a natural oligopoly. There are a few large players, Bet365 being the biggest, and no single one of those large players has an incentive to drop their prices. And in online sports betting, prices is essentially determined by the implied odds of what they're offering to the betting public. The reason they don't want to drop their prices is that if one does, the rest would follow suit. So that would just hurt all their profitability. Who suffers from an oligopoly? It's a few people, but ultimately the customer, because they're paying higher prices. And what's the solution to that? Well, I've come up with a cooperative rather than adversarial relationship between bookie and customer, and it also offers the customer a better, fairer, more transparent deal. What is the crux of the idea? Let's say I take in $10 million worth of bets in a month. and let's say the book makes $1 million gross profit off those bets in that month. I'll give half of that, 500 grand, back to the customers. Cash, no strings attached, into their accounts. And the amount that each customer gets is determined by a transparent formula. Essentially, it's their volume of betting activity during the month. But there's a second very cool feature that I'm bringing to the market that has not been done before. Because of this dividend fund that the customers will be getting at the end of each month, they can essentially get action on all sporting events around the world, because they are essentially the bookie. That's why the company is called We the Bookie. So if the Liverpool-Arsenal soccer game is on TV, but one of the customers doesn't particularly care about the outcome but wants to watch it, he or she will click on the event on the website and determine that he or she is cheering for Arsenal to win or there to be a draw, because that means that more of the customers were betting on Liverpool, so the dividend fund will be enhanced if Arsenal wins or there's a draw. So basically, the customers become the bookies. The online sports betting market is enormous. It's so large that even if a mere sliver of the betting public takes to this model, it makes the business viable. But of course, we're hoping for a slice, not a sliver. On the x-axis, we have a standard model, and on the y-axis at the bottom, there's the worst deal for customers. 95% of the operators have essentially the same model and are operating in the ugly bottom left quadrant. We the Bookie will be well positioned way up in the upper right quadrant, and we will be the only operator operating under this model. The financial forecast is pretty good for fairly minimal investment compared to what the ultimate endpoint will be. And that investment will mostly be used for marketing. Within about a year or two, we should be in the black. And there's a fairly complicated assumption spreadsheet that supports this, and it's been vetted by a number of industry insiders. So as I mentioned, the seed fund target has been reached, but at the same time, it hasn't not been closed. And I'm currently looking to set up my A round, which I hope to time for the start of next year. And most of that money, $500,000, will be used to fund the marketing launch. So how was I doing for time?
Perfect.
Ah, brilliant. So thank you very much for your time. And my email address is info, and that goes directly to me, info@wethebookie.com. But please also speak to me after with any questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So good job on that. I know it's tough to capture a bunch of information in a 5-minute pitch. So 3 things that I thought would be helpful probably for a longer pitch. So my background is I don't do this, so I'm trying to follow along. So if a lot of the investors that you're approaching, if this isn't their thing, kind of maybe starting off with kind of more of a primer of how this works would be helpful. But you had 5 minutes, so I don't expect you to do that. So that's one. So like a user experience, a screen, how would someone interact with it, just so that there's a level set. Number 2, you mentioned the oligopolies controlling the industry. How would they respond to you? Because there's the naive question I have is, if it's that easy, why haven't they done it? But maybe responding to that, because that's an obvious question that wasn't answered there. The third thing I would say is that from a marketing standpoint, I'm curious, you mentioned a global marketplace. How would you go about reaching the audience across the globe, and what sort of restrictions may there be, given the global audience? But otherwise, I thought you captured a lot of really good information in a really short period of time.
I really like the idea. I think you'll probably get a lot of traction. But to me, it's as an investor pitch, it's probably early. They're looking for some kind of traction, and for something like this, it actually is difficult to get traction unless you had, you have to go through that exercise of actually proving your CAC, your cost of user acquisition, and proving those models that actually work, right? So if you're able to get those kind of metrics, and feed through with Facebook marketing and able to get that traction, I think, yeah, it sounds like a really good idea.
Thank you. Both good comments that make a lot of sense. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Who's got questions? I got a question for you. So in the model, as you start to do your testing, is there any regulations that you have to adhere to by the Irish government or the European government or anywhere in the EU? Is there something that you have to meet on regulations? And then two, is there a reporting feature that has to go back based on the amount of bets, how the bets were done, that kind of thing inside of your product?
Sure. So the regulations are determined by where your customers are located. So I will start operating in Ireland and the UK, and they are operated under two different betting commissions. And my platform provider, so the website provider, they actually have they're required to have their own betting license. So I can actually piggyback on their license, which is good because it'll save me 10 to 20 grand. And the second question was
Reporting.
So normally you don't need a ton of reporting, you just enough to satisfy the gambling commission, make sure that they're getting the taxes from you and that you're not cleaning people's money, laundering money, and all these other bad things. But because this model is different and because it will require the trust of the customers that I am actually giving half it back, I probably will sign up a well-known large multinational auditor to get involved so that the customers are satisfied.
And does that include insurance as well?
Not necessarily insurance, no.
So is there a ratio, win-loss ratio that is typical in the industry that you're working off of, so that obviously if everybody bets on Foreman wins, then you're all screwed? So is there something that balances that out? I know Foreman doesn't fight anymore, it's just Canada.
The bookies that go for the professional gamblers, they're operating on fairly low margins of 3 to 4%, but the market I'll be in would be more of like a 7 to 8% win per bet. Of course, I give half that back. In a given month, it's incredibly unlikely that the bookie would be down. You get single events that you can lose on, a boxing fight or whatever, but over a whole month, it's just extremely unlikely. It can happen, but you just claw that back the next month.
Question from me. Hi. It's a two-part of the same question, and it is, do the bettors see the price of betting as high? I'm assuming that's the problem. And the second question is, within that very large global market, ultimately, of bettors, who is your customer?
Good question, actually. And I think one of the problems with the fact that it has been difficult for new entrants to come in only purely on a price competition basis is that it's not as easy as seeing the price of a milk or something. You can see the price, because the price is implied by the odds. So especially if you have like a 140 golfer field, you try working out the implied odds on that, it's really difficult. So that's why this model, it's quite obvious to the customer that I'm using the same odds as Bet365 and all those, and the customer knows that they're getting half back. So the math there is quite easy, that their average loss per bet is going to be about 50%. So it's much more in their face that that's a much better deal. And so I'm so terrible at remembering the second questions because I get.
Who do you think out of the massive bettors
Sure.
are going to be interested in this?
So I think the two main groups will be the savvy bettors who will understand that they're getting a much better deal, and it's simple math. I think the others would be bettors who kind of like that dividend model and like to feel part of everything, that they don't have to bet on it. So I think those are the two main groups.
So on the half back part, is that just a dividend on the gains? So you're not actually giving them, if I bet $100, I lose $100, you're not giving me back $50?
No.
Okay.
So, but you get the dividend regardless of when you lost or won your bets. So if you've had a good month, you'll just have an even better month with the dividend.
So does that mean that you actually are signing them up, being a dividend, that they have to sign up as an owner of the business or any sort of documentation that relates to the ownership side so that they can receive a dividend? Meaning it's almost like an RSP side, everybody can, you set it all up so you can have thousands of investors. So there's different ways you can structure that, so that's what.
No, I use the word dividend, but there's no investment there. They're just getting something back. It's like a refund at the end of the month, and it is determined by how the bets have done.
Yeah.
But there's no way the customers would ever have to pay extra or anything like that. They're just getting it would always be a refund. The amount is just determined by how the month has gone.
You'd have to look into that, so you might not want to use the word dividend, because when I hear dividend,
Yeah.
it means I'm buying into your company,
Mhm.
and you're giving me money back, and then if you sell the company, I get paid there too, so
Yeah.
it just might be a way
I'll
you
think
gotta
of a better
tweak the
word for
words.
that. Yeah.
Because it might only just be that we're giving you X% of a bonus based on whatever, or loyalty points, something that allows me to feel that I'm gonna get something back.
Call it the bets pool or corporate pool or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, like a corporate pool, yeah, something like that effect. So there's a way to guarantee you get something back. Well, either way, thank you very much, that was great, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
So I think overall, just assessing a couple of quick points that came from that. I think you need to obviously figure out who that one key marketer is that you're going after, who's that branded person. That's going to be quite helpful for you. And then just understanding how the distribution is going to work so that you can provide a better value proposition for the better. Just making sure, I think I'm ready to close it. There we go. I did close it, sorry.
Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian. I'm the founder of a bunch of animals. Gentlemen, I don't have a business card, but I have some product for you.
And I have more of them pretty good, man.
And Jeffrey, I hope you're wearing yours.
I didn't send the pictures though, but I did try them on and wear them. They're good.
So we have created the world's softest underwear. I invite you guys to open the packages, feel the fabric. I started the company in November last year, so we've been around for about a year. I haven't been doing any active marketing. I've been doing marketing tests, but we have about 500 plus customers, just over $24,000 in sale. 15% is the repurchase rate. We only have 3 designs that we introduced. And our rate of returns is only 2.9%. On average, online apparel returns are between 15 and 40%. So a little bit about our product. I've never done this pitch, this is my first time, so there could be a little bit of stuttering. So the problem in the marketplace is that most printed underwear is printed with at most 8 colors. We are the only company that prints in full color spectrum. Full color is only available in polyester. We use micromodal, which is a superior fabric to cotton. And most, or I should say all prints from all the other manufacturers break apart at the stitch lines. So we have created an innovative method where our designs continue across any stitch line. And we manufacture in full color, and we have the softest micromodal on the market. Right now we sell exclusively on our website at bunchofanimals.com. We plan on introducing a monthly subscription in Q1 of 2021, maybe earlier if we can secure the financing. Following which we will make the product available on Amazon and Google Shopping. So right now we utilize the Shopify platform. We ship, our target market is 90% in the US. So this is what we're going to focus on. We sell in US dollars. All the numbers that you see in this deck are based on US currency as well. Coming soon, however, Shopify launched a beta program with order fulfillment that removes any need for warehousing, for any packing staff, for any shipping staff. The cost of that is $350 US per about 10,000 pieces being moved every month, which is insanely cheap. The market is valued at about $10 billion in US alone, and we've done extensive research on underwear revenues. We have the 4 top companies that have printed underwear, MeUndies being the largest one that exclusively sells printed underwear, and you can see that the revenues are in excess of $100 million a year. So the deck that I prepared was not for this pitch, so it contains a lot more information. You guys are more than welcome to look through it afterwards. I'll skip through this. Our marketing campaign is exclusively based on Facebook and Google, video ads, and Instagram. Video ads, photo ads, and where the return on investment really kicks in is lookalike audiences and custom audiences built on existing customers. On this chart, you'll see on the left side we have the basic through luxury. MeUndies is more towards the basic side of product. Their underwear has been breaking apart and falling apart after multiple washes. On the left side we have 8 color prints. On the right side we have full color prints. PSD Underwear is the only other company that prints in full color, however they only manufacture polyester underwear. 90% of our customers have turned out to be men over the age of 45. And this is a market that is very underserved, where all the other companies focus on the younger millennial audience. In terms of price point, our underwear is priced at $28 US. Tommy John price is at $37, Saks at $32, PSD and MeUndies being lower quality at $25 and $24. The market size on Facebook alone of men over the age of 45 is in excess of 30 million. And we have developed an online sales strategy with the help of 2 agencies, one for Facebook, Instagram advertising, one for Google advertising. And we're predicting a conservative 3 to 4 times return on ad spend. To give you an idea, MeUndies in 2017 did 6x on Facebook advertising. Unit economics show the lifetime customer values based on artificial intelligence, which is a plugin that is tied into real data from the Shopify store. Our current cost of acquisition is about $35. Our average order value is $52. And lifetime, we have a few customers over $150 in purchases. We're looking for $96,000 for a 10,000 piece product inventory, which will allow us to introduce 10 new designs, $84,000 for online marketing, and $20,000 for web and content update enhancement. My background is I'm a co-founder of 3Imagine, which is a web design and development studio. So we built our platform ourselves, we designed everything ourselves. We're actually in the process of redesigning the current website, making it significantly better. The timeline, I hope to raise the money by the end of this year so that we can commence production in January. A little bit about the team, some testimonials, a little bit about micromodal, 3 times softer than cotton, better moisture absorption, doesn't shrink, doesn't fade, prints don't fade, fabric doesn't change shape after washes. Our digital prints are full color, the only ones on the market that print full color are micromodal. And every design is made in collaboration with an artist such that we can leverage their social media. We produce in Turkey. I have a personal relationship with a gentleman whose father sits on the board of directors of textile manufacturers in Turkey, which allows me to basically walk into any factory and skip out on minimum order qualities and get a significantly better price per piece. So this is what the conservative estimates at 3x return on ad spend show for growth.
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
And here is our profile of financials. So basically, if you sprinkle some honey, we'll return a lot more honey away. And the ask is actually 150,000. I have secured 50,000 investment already. And that is everything.
Perfect. Thank you. Good job. Lucas, you can start again.
Good presentation, and given that it was your first, very well done. And it was good to see that you could adapt kind of as you went slide by slide. So, a few questions, suggestions. First one, I didn't, maybe I missed it. You mentioned that you are in revenue now. It would have been helpful to hear the amount that you have in revenue. Validation. You talked about a lot of the features of the fabric. It would be interesting to hear any sort of validation from your major market of over 45s to substantiate what is making this different. Like things you said that this is better. It would be interesting to validate that and hear that validation from the target market. You mentioned subscription. It would be helpful to maybe add another sentence to either is it like every month that I'm getting you aren't aware of like what is that, or also just don't mention it. Cost per piece, I think I saw it at the end. So you're saying that because of your relationship, significantly, you better access to better prices. So I think it was like $6-7 per piece was what you were able to get. It would be helpful to understand what that means versus what are the competitors paying, just to kind of qualify the advantage. And the last thing, really tactical. There was one slide that was all blue, like mid towards your timeline, and it was like blue font on blue background. It's really hard to read, but otherwise, really good job.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely no knowledge of the clothing industry at all, but from the business side, you mentioned 3x ROI. I would wonder how, at what point you reach saturation and those metrics become different. Same question regarding the unit costs. I guess you went through the deck fairly quickly, so I actually did not see that at all. So cost and margins are interesting. How you justify your $1 million valuation and whether you do want to justify that at this point, because it is again early in the game. It's probably better to get more traction, more sales, and more margin captured before you actually go to investors.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Who has questions? Who would like to ask a question? So far, for shipping wise, how many places and countries have you shipped to? And to answer the question for Lucas, what was the margin that you made off of to date?
So the margins that I have been making in 2019 have been about 40%. I haven't put much money into advertising. I kind of ran out of money. That's the reason. But I have a better pricing moving forward, where I save $2 per piece, and I save an additional $2 per shipment with Shopify fulfillment, which is pretty significant on a $28 piece of underwear.
And I will add.
Sorry, and in terms of the countries shipped, primarily in the US, but I've shipped to Europe, I've shipped to South America, Mexico, Brazil. I have a fair amount of customers there as well. Asia, South Africa, and Canada, of course.
Excuse me, are these individual customers or is it like bigger?
These are individual customers.
Individual.
Yes.
Me again. Do you have any idea, you're trying to build a brand.
Yes.
Love the name. Do you have any idea in terms of existing competitors in the field, what kind of spend they've had to do to build their brand sufficiently to get the returns?
Yeah, I know that MeUndies spent in 2018 about $50 million on advertising out of, I believe, $120 million of revenues, which is pretty substantial.
If you had $20K just to spend on marketing, how would you use that to target your 45 plus men?
I would probably start with building a lookalike audience based on the 500 customers that I have so far. I run strictly video ads. I have some great video content that we shot in Australia. And there are some specific targetings based on competitive brands based on interest, based on psychographics that we've been working through in building that initial campaign.
Is there a way for you to, over the next 3 to 6 months, laser focus in on one aspect of the market that can allow you to kind of get market penetration? And I'm just making something up here on the way to think about it. It's going to, say, the Army, the Navy, and coming up with something that fits for them because they look for comfort, because they gotta walk 1 million miles a day training to get through something. You focus in and become the underwear for the Army, and now you've got a focus point. They become your sales funnel, and then everybody else jumps on board because you've created something that was so unique for them that now that carries out better volume and gets more traction, and that spends for you. You don't have to tell anybody. When you say the Army's involved, people just seem to love that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there's many different market applications, from sports teams, athletes right across the board, from powerlifters to
But everybody's hitting those groups. I'm saying going to somewhere where there's a big group that's not being hammered by everybody,
yeah, for sure.
and focusing on that. Well, just because if you're running down on liquid cash, or however, the white powder, whatever the hell they call it, that might be your best way in. Somewhere that gives you traction, because I think Lucas mentioned it, you need somewhere to get more traction, to get more people interested in the brand while you build the brand.
Right.
And that's getting everywhere. You did a very great job by bringing some for the audience, sending me some. I think that's a fantastic way to get people interested, but you have to do that at a large scale.
Of course.
And then focusing in on that beachhead and figuring out what that is, because there's lots of underwear, there's lots of clothes. So how do you really zone in on one thing and just make that your biggest push to get where you need to be?
Right. Yeah.
And again, it doesn't have to be the Army. It just
Right.
What is that unserviced market?
Unique market. That's
For
right.
sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That
Thank
was
you very
great.
much.
Thank you. And I will iterate that they are very healthy. Okay.
So there's a really big problem in the world today. There's lots of problems, but one of the problems that we have is we have this problem with single serve coffee, where there's a lot of waste being created. There's 350 million capsules that are basically were sold in 2008, and most of them ended up in the garbage. It takes about 150 years to decompose, which is a really long time. And both companies, Keurig and Espresso, who are basically the market leaders in this category, don't tell you what's sustainable, how much they've recycled, et cetera, et cetera. So if you look at the single serve coffee, basically you can take all the coffee pods that have been used and wrap it around the world 10 times. So this is really something that has been, even the Keurig guy was like, I should not have done this. So basically we believe that we have a solution to this problem. Our solution is basically, we sell a product called Woken. It comes in a pack of 10. So it's basically a compatible capsule with coffee in it that you can drink in the mornings. Our capsule is very different. We have an oxygen seal that makes it, this seals in the freshness. It has a 2-year shelf life, which is really long. Aluminum free. Our capsule is actually made from the timber industry. So it's repurposed timber. It's made exclusively from plants that come from powered by wind and sun. We have 2 certifications. We have a BPI certification, and the capsule has an OK compost certification, and it'll basically decompose in like 90 days, about 90 days, a little bit longer, depending on your temperature. So the way it works is this is what the capsule looks like, just so you can see it on there too. You just pop it in your machine, make a cup, press the button, makes a cup of espresso. The really great part is not only is the product compostable, but it's really good coffee, which, let's be honest, people really care about. So the coffee is really great. It's roasted in Milan. It's roasted from a company that's been roasting coffee since 1930. So it's premium. When everybody thinks about who makes the best espresso, usually Italy comes to mind. Currently we're selling 3 blends, Chiso, Arabica, and Lungo, and we're hoping to have decaf available soon as well. So, that's kind of it. So our customers obviously has an espresso original line machine. They're usually within the age of 25 to 39. We've done surveys where they say that 66% of customers say they're willing to spend more money actually for socially and environmental impact companies. And in our case, we have a 30% repurchase rate on our website. In addition, most of our customers, 20% of our customer base comes from California. I think 15% comes from New York, and 9 to 10% comes from Washington State. So we're basically in the process of, we're building a brand that has, at the moment, 1 product, hopefully eventually many, and we use a reselling channel. So we use Amazon as one of our main channels. We also sell on Goop.com, which I don't know if you know Gwyneth Paltrow. It's her website, the actress. We also have our Shopify site that we just relaunched at the end of September, beginning of October. And on our website, we also provide a subscribe and save feature. In addition, for manufacturing, they cost 21 cents for us to make and to have them shipped to Canada, or sorry, to Champlain, New York. So when they hit the ground, that's my cost, is 21 cents per pod, and I've got about a 66% margin. So yeah, this is what we did last year. We tested some pallets, we tested suppliers, made sure to have the right, I guess, people in place so that we were working with a good team. And so last year we tested out, I think, 3 pallets, and then we bought a container, and we've sold about $103,000 US. Most of that came from Amazon because we didn't have a website that worked, so now we do. So that's really nice. And we're hoping, obviously, to increase our sales as we go. And this is a really nice number here. Our average revenue per customer is $53 at the moment. And we're obviously, that's actually a very good thing. And also we have a very nice repurchase rate, which is great. The other thing is we've been featured in magazines and on a lot of tasting tables, Forbes. We basically relaunched the site. This is our roadmap for where we want to go. It's a little bit long. We can probably go over it another time. But basically expanding, right now we're looking at a very aggressive customer acquisition strategy and measuring out our CAC to LTV ratio. So that's really what we're looking at in the next 6 months. And then hopefully also looking at retail, things like Loblaws, wholesale, etc. And eventually coming out with new products. The market is really good. It's a growing market actually, and it's actually growing in the specific category of single serve coffee and espresso. So that's a nice boost for us. Also too, it's looking to grow actually 4.2% in the next till 2024. So that's going to be a really, we think that we're actually positioned really well, just in the marketplace as well. So this is sort of our competition. Obviously, we've got Nespresso, you've got Keurig. There's only one other company, and they're really small, and they're non-premium, and they're making compostable as well. There's a lot of companies that are premium, but make non-compostable, and there are a lot of non-compostable, non-premium as well. So they're just listed over there. So we have a really nice niche that we've tried to carve out of the last little bit. These are just the financials that we've sort of projected out, and I think we're asking for around $250,000 to $300,000, and most likely we'll do a safe note, just because looking at the valuation of the company, I don't think is realistic at the moment. So, my name is Amanda. Thanks so much, and thank you.
Awesome.
Just curious if there's any intellectual property in the material or any other way you can get that, because it's a great idea you have. One of the things that if you might want to do if you were to partner with some of the major coffee brands or the machine manufacturers is that if you had the intellectual property protection in place, then those discussions can go further. But even without that, if you have manufacturing capabilities, partnerships like that can help you achieve scale much faster. So I saw, okay, so this is the slide on your personal background. I'm wondering if you have any background in the actual processing or manufacturing or those kind of things. So that's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
Good presentation there.
Oh, thank you.
It's so tempting to answer the question, isn't it? Yeah, so for me, to add to Sherwin's comments, having this, because it's kind of you against an entire industry, having a little, really, because it's kind of like you're standing there, you're up against Keurig, and it would be helpful to establish credibility for you, because as a customer, I'm gonna buy something. But as an investor, I don't know if it's you and you're standing there and then like David's gonna stomp on you. But if you had a little more like, yeah, I've got this background, I've got a background in packaged goods, in coffee, in foods, or I'm working with a manufacturer and they're bigger than David, or or just something to kind of give us a sense of size that you are representing, because you keep saying we, which is good. No, but and it is what it is, whatever the arrangement is. But clarifying that if you have partners who can lend weight, that would add some credibility. Similar story. You mentioned Loblaws and some of the stores I know you're selling online. If you have any sort of foothold that you can speak to, that you've met with Loblaws, you're talking to Costco, whoever those, you're chatting with Whole Foods, and it's really difficult to get in. So if you start getting into, and I don't know if you're already having conversations, but if you have something that you can stand on and say, yeah, I'm chatting with whoever, that adds credibility again to this David and Goliath thing. And then at the very end, and I don't know if that was a strategy, when you were asking for the, it's between 250 and 300, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use it, and I don't know where I'm going to, how it was very vague. So when you do come to pitch for cash, be very specific about I'm looking for this, and I'm going to use it for that, and that, and then in exchange for equity. So I think it was, for me, it was, like I said, as a customer, big fan, and I thought you did a really good job. I think giving a sense of weight behind you is essential in this industry, and then a sense of what are you going to take the money and use it for, to be more specific.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, who has questions? These are the questions you get to answer.
Yeah, you answered their question.
Okay.
So you mentioned that you guys had over 100,000 revenue. Was that, so two parts to the question. Is it strictly from Amazon, your revenues? And the second one, what is your marketing spend to achieve those revenues?
I think it was 80% on Amazon last year because we didn't really have a functioning website. So we shifted our website. I can't remember the spend exactly, I have to check it, but it's probably around, I want to say on Amazon specifically, it's probably around 20 grand. It's my guess, 20, maybe 25. I'd have to check though, but yeah.
Okay.
In your revenue projection slide, I think it's the next slide.
Yeah.
It looked a little bit conservative. It's usually the opposite. So I don't know. Maybe look at your assumptions again, and
Yeah.
I think if it's going to be successful, I think you probably see a higher growth in your revenues.
I agree with you. I do that because I feel like if you go too high, then they come back and say, well, that's unrealistic, or you gotta. So I'm like, I'd rather flip it. But yeah, I agree with you.
Sure.
I think we can definitely. It's definitely something to massage and make it so that it obviously, I think the growth looks bigger.
Is one of the constraints of your growth production side more than the demand side, or how do you balance those two?
I would say that I think most of it is regarding brand. It's hard to build a new brand. It's hard to get people to try something new. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at the product and you look at the market, I think the brand is quite important and it has a lot of weight. And I think that just takes time to build. It's, I think at least on our end, we're very lucky that we work with a supplier that's been in business since 1930, and they're a very large company, and they've been very good to us. So that's not my issue is not so much on production. There's long lead times because it's imported from Italy. It takes a while, but in terms of, for us, it's about building the brand and building the consumer base as well.
For your competitor base slide, does it make more sense to focus on the people that actually manufacture the pods versus the businesses that sell the machine and the pods? Because there is a big difference between the market you're going after. Nespresso has a machine, Keurig has a machine. I think most people will associate the pods to the brand and just say I'm an espresso maker, and if you're not carrying that, you really have to share a different message, because they may not understand that works in a Keurig, because it's not part of a Keurig, or it doesn't work in an espresso. So does that change the way you market? Does that change the way you compete? And are there other competitors out there that fit more in the Woken space that are just pod selling, and how do they do it?
Yeah, there's a lot of competitors in pod selling. There's like Vespresso, Gourmesso. They're not as premium, but they exist. They've built reasonable brands, I think, by Amazon and their websites, et cetera, Gourmesso is probably the leader, but they're not premium at all. Like, their coffee's not great.
So that would be, I would think, that should be your focus. Nespresso and Keurig are not your competitors. They're the elephant in the room.
Machines, yeah.
And they are not your competitor. The other people are, and you're competing against the other pod manufacturers because you're actually proving to them that premium is going to win the battle of the pod, and because you have a disposable pod, that's where you compete against them. They're more of your competition and putting those in ranks, so low to high end. I wouldn't bother with Nespresso because it takes away from where you fit in a $1 billion industry. You're like the dollar in $1 billion, and that doesn't fit your model, but when you're competing against the pods, you're now the $10 in the $100 manufacturing spot. So, yeah, one last one.
Right, I'm a writer, so I'm very much into brands and titles. Now, all your competitors have coffee in their title. If I just looked at Woken, I wouldn't realize that was coffee, like anything to do with coffee. Your company, Woken.
Yeah.
I just wonder why you would have sort of something coffee in the.
I think when the name was being created, it was created as just Woken. I think that's something we can always look at and add or not add. I think it's a question of branding and what we want to do. I think also we want to have a product line eventually. So it's not, I think at one point it's not, the hope is that it won't just be coffee forever, right? We want it to be snacks and nuts and all that jazz. So at the end of the day, it's about building a brand. But yeah, I think a lot of the time if we have talked about repackaging and talking about Woken coffee and calling it Woken coffee, etc. That's not necessarily out of scope. I think it's just a question of timing and decision making.
Perfect, good question. We do have to move on, but you guys can jump in a little bit after, and thank you very much. Oh, you're the best, thank you. So just to kind of recap, I guess one of the things to look at is it mentioned you put something in with coffee, and your branding side of things you can have, if you are going to expand the brand later, it can be Woken coffee, Woken peanuts, Woken this, and that defines the brand. But it is something to consider, and then of course to give yourself a better landscape of your competitors and figuring out where you fit into the pod space and utilizing that. But I think your biggest focus that you guys are going to win the battle in is actually around the brand. So a lot of the companies, you use Flow Water, we talked about this. Flow was a brand before they became a seller. And everybody knew who they were before they actually started to sell product, because they blew up and made this big brand, made it bigger than they were, and they had to kind of catch up to the brand. So you kind of want to find a way to do the same thing, because again, you got to make yourself noticeable in a big market. But thank you. state's waves. All right, big hand, let's hear it, let's hear it.
Good evening, everyone. And my name is Ahmed, and I'm the co-founder of State Wave. And I want to tell a small story before we start this. State Wave is a real estate solution for agent and brokers. And we are talking about industry that with an actually huge size. It's $32 trillion investment over here on real estate. New immigrant goes directly to the airport and they shake hand and they say, welcome home. Then your next step, you have to find a home. And there where the journey starts. Painful, a lot of time, a lot of visit, house viewing, and at the end of the day, it took you months, 2, 3, 4. It's really hard work for the agent, for the seller, and for the buyer as well. So, and this market have a lot of problems. It's not only in Canada, it's everywhere in the world. And before we finish this, it's so. What is the problem for agent? They cannot serve well. Costly, and lead generation is actually costly. They buy it from Zillow, from Zolo, from all these. Adapting to the technology, there is a lot of weakness in the technology for the real estate. Growing online competition and low inventory. This makes everything slow and not efficient at all. And result of that, the average actually for the revenue for every agent is less than $46,000 a year, and 10% of them earn less than 23. So a very challenging and high cost environment, and numbers not good at all, and they spend a lot of money in marketing, and the result at the end is not that satisfaction for them. So let's say hi to State Wave. It's a solution to make it everything in one place, one stop. It's a niche product as a CRM, so it's different than a normal CRM. It's tools for marketing, listing portal, community, special community, professional community for these guys to talk and exchange all the information. Accounting for bookkeeping and virtual reality, which we change the game in virtual reality and play a different game. So here's some screen for it. So we have the online portal, and we have the CRM, which is completely different concept from this normal CRM we have in the market, and we have the financial process, and it's simple and easy, and we allow them for the first time to build their own VR or 360-degree viewer without needed for any professional to use it. What we give them more, we give them access directly to publish their own listing in 104 portals, 64 countries, with a potential buyers 254 million. So now it's a different game. People will go on the website, like what happened here, realtor.com, realtor.ca. They request a view for the first time. You don't have to go out, take your customer, and visit the house. Immediately you connect to your own customers, talking to them, save the gas, save the money, save everything, and even your time. You shortlist it, you have 2 houses, you go close the deal, and that's it. Transparency as well. We did it because you can send your own bidding directly or your own offer to the owner immediately. You can highlight on the VR, you can do whatever you want. We created like a PowerPoint, so you can imagine what you can do with it. All you need is one mobile app and a 60-degree camera. Sizes, everything can be done. This is the team. Combined all together, we have 45 years of experience. Myself, I've worked with real estate for 20 years. I provide them with what we call it, a complete solution for ERP. And I exit last year from my company and moved to Canada. Rahul has a long experience with huge companies like Google and everywhere and Salesforce, and he's specialized in the CRM, and our CTO with more than 15 years in tech. This is our roadmap. The complete roadmap is already there except the AI implementation, which we are going to do it very soon. But now we're going to release it in January with an online listing portal, back-end CRM, the calendar management, and the bookkeeping as well, the financial. Then we wait sometimes, and then we can release the virtual reality, and we integrate all of them to the global listing, what we have. Social media integration, like Facebook, Instagram, it's allowed for them to do it. Community management, advanced dashboard for them, and finally we're going to do the AI implementation. Before we go to the market, we try to test what's happening, what people feel, what investors feel about our product and everything, and this is what we get. Finally, these are our partner. In order to go to a huge market like this, you need one of these partners over there, like Courier over in Canada, and this will allow you to start your own portal with a huge amount of data that grab the other agent on the market. This is our financial projection. This is how we think about it. And we have a huge sheet and a lot of calculation for there. Why we do it like that? Because we have a good idea to convert customer immediately from the free trial to the paid customer. We're looking for 250 convertible notes to valuation of 2.5 million, and we have a justification for this one as well. What we're going to do, building a team for the AI, marketing, and the development with our partner like IBM. So this product is a mix between fintech, proptech, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality. The idea behind the artificial intelligence that when the customer experience goes to the standard portal these days, they don't know if this Markham safety area, how long the destination between my work and my house, how I'm going to do this, and especially for newcomers or people who try to change from a city to a different city. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you for the presentation. I think to me, your product is not finished yet. Is that right? And
No, it's ready. Actually, we're going to release next month.
okay. So immediately that brings to mind like the justification of the valuation, because what you really require several steps ahead of you are those pilots that you have to actually justify. I'll use your words, simple and easy. You'll have to actually get those testimonials from people, and I think it does seem to me like a long way before you can actually say that even test these things like is global listings useful. I think those things have to come out of the customers, right? To me, like you have to. I don't want to be overly critical, but I think from a team perspective, I would like to see people on the team who have industry expertise as opposed to technical expertise. Purely technical expertise allows you to solve a problem that may or may not be there.
Could be.
Because the industry, the insights you get from that industry expertise will get you more accurate targeting into that problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah, I would agree with Sherwin's comment. If you're targeting, earlier on for another company, there was a conversation about target market. The needs of somebody who, you start with a story of somebody who's moving to Canada. Their need is different than somebody who lives in Toronto and is looking for another place in Toronto. Have you ever heard of, one thing that would be helpful is including a slide on competitors. I actually know the owners of Studio GTA, and they do exactly that. So including competitors to show that you've done the research, and again, I think the theme is understanding the industry or demonstrating an understanding of the real estate industry, which you may have. I don't think came through, but that would be helpful. So listing competitors who do similar things, where you stand, you're stronger versus others. So that's what I was googling with Studio GTA because I knew they did this. Your feedback and testimonials, I don't think any of them were in the real estate industry. So again, I think just making it clear that you understand that market and you're bringing that understanding back to improve the experience is good. I think I personally would have touched on or would have liked to have seen what sort of agent adoption strategy you would incorporate. So if an agent has to learn this new technology, if it's not easy for them and there's not there's whatever onboarding process, it's easy for them to learn it, then you won't have the adoption, which then negates or puts into jeopardy your revenue. The last thing I think, maybe I missed it, was a revenue model. So how are they going to pay you?
Subscription model.
And seeing the dollar figure, how much per user, how much per.
Yeah, we already figured that, and that's
Again, if I missed it, I apologize. But seeing it would have been helpful to substantiate it because I was left going. There was we're going to do these things, and then now we're asking for 200. We're asking for money. I didn't know how you were going to make money.
Perfect, thank you. Sorry, we have a thing where we don't answer questions only because we would be here for half an hour if everybody wanted to have a disagreement or agreement with the guys talking, so that's why I wait now. Who has a question? All right.
Hi. You said you have a plan to convert a free customer in paying customer. What's the plan?
Yeah, the idea, when we start this and we want to test the market, so we go for the bigger guys because a small adoption for a small agent will be very difficult one by one. So companies like O'Reilly, what we already partner with them, they have thousands of agents around the world. Actually, it's not only on Canada. And the idea behind it, it's all about data. No one has the data completely, the data. That's why we provide it for free for the CRM and the back end, little part of the back end. So now you need to compete with the VR, you need to compete with the international portals as well. And this is how people will have to convert from the free model directly to the paid model. Saying that, testing the market itself, this is how we did. That's why we did our partnership with Cora. We tested with these guys. We tell them, this is the story. What is your pain? And how this is going to solve your pain? And from there, we start moving. Now we are actually doing another partnership with 2 other big companies in the market. The idea behind why we choose the bigger names, because they have thousands of agents on the market. And this will give us a huge edge. Imagine you go live in January with all the inventory for Korea and 3-4 other countries on the top. That's me. You have an inventory or listed property bigger than any other portal, including realtor.ca. So this is how we want to go to the market. We don't want to go and spend thousands of dollars in marketing, advertising on Facebook and all these. We want to go directly from the industry to the industry. And this is how it works. There is no difference between the newcomer and actually the one moving from a city to a city. You need to see the house, you need to view the house, and you need to drive your car to another city and see how it looks like. But in this way, you have to shortlist what you want to see and go for 1 hour. This saves thousands of dollars. Marketing, integrated, and all this is a lot. And people cannot afford it, which I'm talking about agent itself. They cannot afford to pay all this amount of money. So what they are doing, they have 3 or 4 jobs to solve this issue.
So do you have any statistics around how many people have bought in the last 3 years a home using VR?
The VR concept is very expensive, and it costs about $1,200 to build it.
For sure, but have you have any statistics on who has bought a home with VR?
Yeah, 34% actually looking to buy VR.
So 34% of the buyers market in Canada have started using VR as their first platform before they bought the house?
Exactly. Actually, they didn't buy it directly. They shortlist what they are looking for, which is save a lot of time and money for both sides.
Okay. And that's, I would probably put that statistic in there because I've never seen anybody that I'm aware of, that I know of, that's used VR as a means to shortlist a property, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And that seems very high. That means that obviously
this
you're almost at 60% of people are left in the market that need to convert over to be buying, and maybe in 2 years no one will ever go to a...
The converter happened directly, and the VR happened with houses above $2 million. That's why this is happening with this.
Okay, so there's another stat. So maybe more statistical information might help prove why the value of your business is there, because people are looking for this. So just show that as a way of proving it. Any last questions? Where do you find that you're going to focus on which country first? Are you focusing on the Canadian economy first again?
We're going to start from Canadian and then move directly to US. Most probably we have about 10 customers already, 10 companies in Dubai, because I came from there, and they already are my customer in my first company. So we approached them in the beginning, and we got a complete approval. They launched with us. So in fact, once the day we launch, we have multiple countries on the platform as well.
Very good. You might even be able to just get Dubai to buy all the homes in Canada. We should be good. Awesome. Thank you very much. That was good. Thank you. So just to recap, it might be good to take a look quickly at some statistical information just to prove how the product would work in Canada, and then figuring out how you're going to focus on the large groups and maybe break down a little bit more like Colliers and how they're going to fit into this picture and how you see them generating value and conversion in dollars for you. But thank you. Revolve. Let's hear it for Revolve.
Great, thanks. Hello everyone, my name is Rami, here with Revolve Surgical, my co-founders, here over there. So this might be a bit of a, I should use this. This might be a bit of, is it okay without the microphone?
Well, we use it for the recording.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So this might be a bit of a change of pace. I think our company's maybe a bit different than what's traditionally here, but nonetheless, I'll go through this. So if you walk into an operating room today, it might at first look very different than it did hundreds of years ago, but looks can actually be quite deceiving because today, over half of surgeries are done using the same invasive open approach that involves large incisions made in the body, and that approach has existed for hundreds of years. And we have techniques to do things differently in the form of minimally invasive surgery. So it begs the question, why aren't there more minimally invasive surgeries? Well, as you can see, there's long rigid instruments have to pass through really small ports of the body, and that makes navigating confined spaces, particularly in the lower pelvis, extremely difficult. And as a result, minimally invasive surgery hasn't taken off as much as some people would have hoped. And this is where robotics comes in. So robotic surgery can provide surgeons with vastly improved dexterity and control over these small instruments in these tight spaces. However, existing systems, as you can see here, consist of the doctor sitting away from the patient and controlling these large robotic arms that operate directly on the patient. Now, this approach was actually developed initially for battlefield applications in which they hoped that military doctors would be able to perform surgeries remotely. Unfortunately, due to a number of factors, that never really took off. And what we're left with is expensive systems that were translated directly into hospital environments. They also take a long time to set up, and they're a drastic change to surgeon workflows. So our mission at Revolve is to make surgical robotics more accessible and put surgical robotics into every operating room. As you can see here, this is our prototype system. We have a table-mounted system that consists of 2 instruments, as well as an endoscope, forming what we're terming the Revolve surgical platform. And we've developed this prototype with a minimal amount of founder money, and it's fully functional. So you can see here that there's a remote center of motion that constrains the instrument to the surgical access port, and a dexterous handle that collects the surgeon's hand movements and translates these hand movements directly to the tip of the tool. And as you can see here, I'll quickly go over some fine surgical tasks that we used with the instrument. So this is a standard surgical skills assessment task, tech transfer task. So as you can see, the movements of the handle are replicated directly at the tip of the tool, enabling highly precise movement. We're even able to use the tool for suturing. Unfortunately, none of us are trained surgeons, so it's not the best suturing, but as you can see, it shows that we're able to use the device for this task. All right, so the device itself consists of the platform with a stabilizing arm, as well as a motorized component at the back, and interchangeable instruments. And from a business model perspective, we're hoping to position ourselves in between manual laparoscopic tools and robotic surgical systems. However, on a price standpoint, we're much closer to these manual instruments. So existing surgical robotic systems tend to burden hospitals with up to $2.1 million capital costs and extremely high per surgery costs as well. So because our system is much more simple than these other systems, we're able to more closely match the cost of these existing manual tools while providing the core benefits of these expensive robotic systems. And as a result, we can provide value to surgeons, hospitals, and to patients. And really, this is our driving mission here, is to reduce complication rates for patients by converting these open procedures to be minimally invasive. And in the long term, we're also very well positioned to enable the next future of surgery. Our sensorized platform will enable us to use AI to help doctors as they perform these complex surgical tasks, and eventually move on to autonomous or semi-autonomous tasks as well. And the market is large, and this is only in 5 candidate procedures. So we focus right now on general surgery procedures, cholecystectomies, hernia repairs, and colorectal operations, as well as urologic procedures such as hysterectomies and prostatectomies. Across Canada, United States, and Europe, assuming our pricing model that we just showed, the market is at least $5 billion only in these procedure categories. And many companies right now are trying to replicate the existing competitor in the space, which is Intuitive Surgical, and there's very few other companies trying to do something different. So we think we're providing significant differentiation and a lot of value for our customers. In terms of timeline, we started in June, and we're looking to raise a pre-seed funding amount to bring us towards basic animal trials in the fall of next year. And we're looking for $150,000 spread over technical development, expanding the team, and also IP costs. So we filed a provisional patent in September, and we're looking for that provisional patent to span into 4 non-provisional patents. Our team right now consists of myself, Alex, and Peter. We all have experience in surgical robotics, having done advanced degrees. Alex right now is doing his PhD at SickKids. We also assembled a world-class team of surgeons across the GTA area, and we're currently in the creative destruction lab out of Robin. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent presentation. Very clear to me how you guys have the credibility to do something so advanced as this. I think I'd like to see how much has been invested so far. Not sure if I saw the what your ask is with respect to the valuation, and just some more around the business model, how you plan to make what the existing cost of the surgery is, and what actually causes your customers to switch from existing, selling to hospitals might not be purely cost. They're not fast-moving organizations either. So, what are those kind of events that cause them to want to adopt your platform? Even if there's a whole business-to-business selling go-to-market strategy you got to address.
Yeah, so along those lines, showing the typical process of how long it takes to within the surgical space, and kind of giving us a sense of where you are right now, I think would give the investor community, the investors you're approaching, a sense of how much longer do you need to go before you think you're going to realize revenue. So I think painting that timeline would be good. That last slide, so you made a comment, and I think it was an offhand comment, that you kind of said, yeah, we're not surgeons, and your credibility just plummeted.
Yeah, you're not going to.
And I was like, you totally don't have me. And then, but your last slide was like, why didn't you start with that? Because if you're coming in, I mean, you think of the emotional aspect of surgery. Well, I don't want some couple guys who decide to put together a robot. I don't want people using that on me. But with that last slide, like you've got some serious horsepower. So I personally, especially because you're not coming in with a medical background, I think leading not necessarily the first slide, but that early on to establish that you do have the practical experience at the table. And I think weaving in some commentary that the doctors may have said, yeah, we've tried it, and it works, it's accurate, it's whatever, just to establish the credibility, I think would have been helpful. Because those were the two things that kind of jumped out at me, and then yeah, I kind of bungee jumped back when I saw this slide. But I think those were the two things, with just understanding the process to get something into market of this nature, and then making sure that people believe that your team can actually do it, and you've got the collective skill.
Thank you. Very valid points. Some of the great things that do come out of this is that as investors, we see lots of pitches like this. There's a company that was going through over the last year raising funds, and they were a new form of grippers for the hospital. At YSpace here, one of the companies is actually making a new hospital bed. So there is lots of companies that come through looking for investment, and the thing is that they've all got a little focus of something different, and it doesn't matter which category or which area it is. The focus comes out is how are they going to make a difference? How are they going to sell? And I think one question I will ask is the cycle for medical is probably the longest than any company. I think they've proven that even a startup takes 17 years to fully recognize their potential as a high volume driver in the medical space. How do you guys see yourself making that change from the way they're doing something now into that next steps? Outside of the clinical trials for animals, there's an education piece, there's converting old schoolers into trying out something new, and they're top surgeon of the year for the last 30 years, and now they're going to come in and start doing something completely different. How do you feel that you're going to be able to shift that? Because I think that's really important to your model.
Sure, yeah, great question. So I think I could start that out by just sort of explaining what kind of exists today in terms of the gold standard for surgical robotics, which is this right here. And so because this is such a significant change to surgeon workflows, there's actually much higher friction for surgeons to transfer their skills to something like this. So to just address the point on sort of education, we really do think that because our tool is more aligned to their existing habits, that transfer time will be significantly reduced. To get to the point of the go-to-market strategy and time, also because the system is a bit simpler, we expect that we could get regulatory approval within 3 to 4 years. So that will be a bit of a tighter, because there are predicate devices in the market. So,
is there an earlier entry point that you could get into market with, maybe something that is more abrasive, less smaller, and then they're like, yeah, this works, and then you kind of build back to where you are now? Is that another form of entry, or you really can't, this is the only way you can go into it?
Yeah, there's potential points of entry in terms of surgical education. It's actually quite a large market. So that's just in terms of surgical skills training for residents and fellows. And then there's also potentials for, we haven't thought a lot about it, but perhaps in terms of animal surgery, less regulated spaces where they could make use of something like this.
So you could get in there, start generating some revenue, and then utilizing that to work your way through human trials beforehand.
Yeah, that's a possibility for sure.
And does the human trials, how long do you think that'll take before you go through it? Is that cadaver first, then going into the next stage? And do you have to get approval for, I guess it's the medical procedure on all the layers, like how fast something can be done, rate of error, all those types of things? Is that part of your FDA approvals, or how does that work?
So I guess there's two answers to that question. The first is that because there are predicate devices in the market, there won't be the traditional sort of clinical trial that you hear when you think of like a new drug that comes to market. So we're not looking at a 10-year period or anything like that. We just need to show safety and efficacy. And so the first step in that will be either pig models or animal models to show that our device actually performs as expected. And then later on, when we finalize the design, there'd be trials to show that we can actually perform the specific tasks that we're targeting. And on the second point, we're in the process of filing the Q-Sub with the FDA, which will give us a very clear idea of exactly what we need to do. And we should hear back within about 90 days.
Anybody have any questions?
Could you see this expanding to like heart surgery or brain surgery? I mean, that's so exact.
Yeah, exactly. I think for now we've sort of identified these target procedures, mostly because they occur in the lower abdomen area where there's a great benefit for having these dexterous tools. But the stability that comes with what we're developing could be applied to many, many other areas of surgery. So in that regard, I would say that the market estimate that we're providing here is probably a bit of an underestimate for the total number of surgeries that could be used with our platform.
I suppose also veterinary surgery, veterinary surgery would also be another area.
The challenge is some people don't, hopefully they might not care about their pet so much.
No,
as the pet
like
as a star.
horses, like
Yeah.
Wealth, for instance, has a huge area that they do very innovative animal surgery.
From a use case standpoint, what is the cost of the current procedure and time, effort that's utilized, and then where do you come in inside of that? Like, what's the cost savings if there is any? Is it time savings? What is the real big value proposition that would get a surgeon to say, you know what, I'm willing to get into this phase now and learn it?
So the cost saving, so right now, if a surgeon's performing a manual surgery, just on the tools themselves, they're looking to spend about $400 to $600. If they're performing a robotic surgery, we up to $2,500 US. But this doesn't include the capital cost investment. So that capital cost investment is about $2.1 million. And so in certain economic environments, that is a palpable cost. But for example, in Canada, all the surgical robots that exist today are entirely donor funded. And so there's a significant gap between this here and then this here, and there's only about 60 of these systems in Canada. So if we can provide the core benefits of the system at a significantly reduced cost, and hospitals are reimbursed based on a per procedure basis, then there's really high economic incentive for hospitals and surgeons to use our platform.
Okay, there's a company that's running through my head right now, and they use robotics. I'm trying to think of their name. Mirian Robotics?
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
You know them? Okay. And where do they fit with you? Are they a competitor, or are they an add-on, or do you work with them?
So they're strictly focused right now, to the best of my understanding, on surgical training. So they're just focused on helping surgeons learn the techniques for minimally invasive surgery. So in some respects, we could be a collaborator with them in terms of using our platform to facilitate that, or if we decided to go into that space as well, then that's something we could look into.
It might be a good thing to look at because they do training, and they're I believe they're on their second or third round of funding, and really good guys. And I think they would be certainly interested if your model starts to push forward. They would probably love the opportunity to be able to educate the rest of the hospitals, because they do have a footprint in, and it would save you time and effort getting in with them to teach your product to them, and then they teach it out. Might get you better, faster traction. One last question on the durability of the product. You have to come through with something like that where if someone bangs into it, it can break, can have issues. So is there anything that you have to be cautious of, because replaceable parts, issues during surgery, something breaks? Is there anything like that that becomes a focus of your monthly MRR, where you're building in different fees that they have to cost in to replace skin covers, anything like that for cleaning the device, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, we expect there will be some consumables associated with the system. For something like these expensive systems here, draping, for example, is a big cost, because they have to drape these systems to ensure that they're sterilizable. So there will be, we haven't fully understood exactly how many consumables there will be, but we do want to reduce the cost or the number of consumables as compared to these other systems.
Okay, cool. That was awesome. All right, thank you. All right, I think we got the best job in the world. We get to see the coolest things out there. That was, I'm gonna say, probably 5, 6 companies. I think there were supposed to be 6, so there was 5 companies. And let's give a hand to them because they were awesome. First timers. great job, and really excited. I always love seeing new tech, new businesses, and seeing you guys get out to market and be successful. And oddly enough, even though I can hear the pitch 100 times, the next time I hear it, I think of another thing that I want to get behind and say, oh, what about this? So I love it, so thank you very much for that. Big hand for the advisors, these guys rock. And I don't want to take too much time because I know that someone has to pick up their kids, so I don't want to delay them too much. So outside that, next week is ICBE. So we do have an event there if you're interested to come to it. We will have a couple of great startups that are going to be pitching at that conference. It is at Toronto Metro Convention Center. And also for the next event, we will be having one here in early January, and then we go to Skip the Line and so forward. So if there's any interest in those, to participate in those, you guys know where to find us, and we're obviously going to be in touch with you guys. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the new year.
Big